Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well. Today, we're going to be looking at saving your brand in China. Now, China is emerging as a global IP leader and enforcer. As such, it really is the responsibility of any business owner to register their IP in China in a timely fashion before any IP hijacker or squatter can. Before you begin your internet searches, content downloads, social media networking, joining local or even foreign trade shows that have a China delegation attending, joining local networking events, virtual networking events, or even on the ground investigations and due diligence, you've got to register your IP. If you do not, you are openly making it easy for any local Chinese individual to hijack and steal your trademark. Now, our recommendation is to search the trademark database before filing for any registration. Although this is not required prior to filing an application, you are encouraged to search the database to see whether any mark has already been registered or applied for that is like your mark and used on related products or for related services. Now, if your search yields a mark that you think might conflict with your mark. So if you find any marks that might conflict with yours, you should then check the status of that application or registration to see if it's still active. The failure to use a registered trademark for 3 consecutive years in China means it is subject to cancellation and can be considered inactive. Now, a complete search is one that will uncover all similar marks, not just those that are actually identical. And as part of the overall examination process, the search will involve a search within the database to determine whether registration will be refused because there are similar marks that are available. Okay. Now, the Chinese IP Bureau does not offer advisory opinions on the availability of a mark or the success rate of an actual application. You will need to get expertise from an IP expert to assist you. Now, keep in mind, in China, there is the first to file system. Now, the advantages in China is that the trademark registration process is a first to file. This means that the first party to file for the registration will be granted the rights of that trademark. Basically, it's a first come, first served principle. And when you register a trademark in China, it is valid for up to 10 years, with the renewal process being requested 6 months prior to the expiry date. And the application process can take anywhere from about 9 to 12 to 16 months, depending on how busy the CTMO office, which is the China Trademark Office, is. Obviously, the disadvantage of the first to file system is that the law in China allows anyone to register a trademark, irrespective of whether it's owned by another party or is in use in another jurisdiction. So if a trademark is not currently registered in China, anyone can lay claim to it. And this means that your trademark could be legally owned by any other party, leaving you ultimately locked out of China. Now, what you need to think about when you're filing your trademark registrations is 1, search that the trademark is available, as mentioned. Choose what you want to register. What are your brand assets? Are they logos, brand names, company mottos, words, designs? What is it? What are your brand assets? So it's evaluating that. What are you going to use as your brand assets in China? It's choosing which entity is going to own that trademark or trademarks. And then it's searching which classes and subclasses of goods and services you wish to register your trademark in. Every jurisdiction has a class list with a series of classes and subclasses highlighting the individual goods and services. And a company really needs to understand what activities they're going to be performing in the Chinese market to understand what classes and subclasses is going to be related to them. Now, a couple of terms that I would like you to remember, as I mentioned earlier, was trademark hijacking and IP squatters. Trademark hijacking is when a local business or individual registers a trademark in China, which is owned by another individual company in another jurisdiction, but completely unrelated companies. The registrant then uses the success of the brand elsewhere and demands licensing fees or even sues for infringement when the original products or services enter the Chinese market. And this form of hijacking can tarnish the brand image, especially if the infringer sells inferior goods or provides inferior services under the same brand name. IP squatters, and this is actually a serious problem, but I also know that IP squatters is something that is prevalent throughout the world. I have heard of IP squatters in the US who basically purchase trademarks so that they can eventually sell them off to original owners. And the same is happening here. Some people even use it as a type of business. So there are individuals out there who have heard of your brand name and basically they squat it, register it, and wait for you to approach them so they can sell it back to you. Now, why is all of this important? All of this is important because if you don't register your trademark in China and you don't own it, then ultimately it is illegal for you to sell any goods or services bearing that trademark, especially if it is owned already by someone else. If it's not yet registered and not owned by somebody else, then you're fine. But how long do you want to take that risk? It's illegal for you to manufacture or source goods in China bearing that trademark, again, if it's owned by somebody else that owns that trademark in China. And likely that any goods you do manufacture in China will be seized by Chinese customs as counterfeit goods, again, if you are not registering your trademark. So it's not just for companies that are looking to import into China, companies that are exporting to China, from China, companies that are offering services on the ground. This is important for everybody. Everybody that is doing business in China should be registering their trademarks. Now, the big question is, what should be your trademark strategy? Now, your first step should ultimately be to conduct a search to see whether your trademark has already been registered or not, under which classes and subclasses. And if there are no problems, then go ahead and register it as soon as possible. It's easy. It's a quick to file process, only needing to follow the step-by-step considerations that I said aloud earlier, which is finding out, doing a search, understanding what classes, subclasses, understanding who's going to own the mark, and then you just go ahead and file, okay? Now, if you find that somebody is in the process of filing for your trademark and it's not been registered yet, or somebody has already filed your trademark, then you should really approach an IP lawyer in China to represent you and understand what options you have for counteractive action. That was a big word. I hope this information has helped, and I can't emphasize enough how important it is to actually save your brand and think about how you're going to save your brand in China. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'll be providing you with my details. As part of our services, we do trademark registrations and trademark searches. We are not IP lawyers by any means, but we can help at least with the compliance procedure of registering the trademarks. I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Take care and goodbye.